setiap hati tekad untuk mewujudkannya. Wahana Visi Indonesia. Lebih dari 20 tahun, WVI sebagai Yayasan Kemanusiaan Kristen dan mitra terpercaya World Vision International hadir di berbagai pelosok Indonesia untuk memberikan harapan bagi anak-anak Indonesia tanpa membedakan suku, agama, ras, dan gender dengan pendekatan pengembangan transformasional melalui penguatan kapasitas masyarakat, advokasi, dan tanggap bencana. Kami tidak bekerja sendiri. WVI bermitra dengan perusahaan, lembaga donor, pemerintah dan mitra lokal, pemuka agama, relawan, tokoh publik, serta media untuk menghadirkan dunia yang lebih baik bagi anak-anak. WVI fokus pada kesehatan, perlindungan anak, pendidikan, pengembangan ekonomi keluarga, penguatan kebijakan, dan terus meningkatkan kapasitas dalam merespons setiap bencana. Serta terus melakukan inovasi program berbasis teknologi digital sebagai bagian dari akuntabilitas untuk masyarakat dan mitra kerja. Komitmen kami semakin teguh. Bersama anak, masyarakat, dan mitra kerja, Wahana Visi Indonesia akan terus melayani yang rentan, menghargai setiap martabat manusia, ambil bagian dalam mewujudkan perubahan bagi anak-anak Indonesia.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, good evening Jakarta, good morning London, greetings to all Bapak dan Ibu, panelists and all participants. Welcome to the Filantropi Learning Forum 2022. Thank you for virtually attending this evening dialogue. Hope everyone in this virtual room in good health and the most important thing also, good mood to ensure that our immune body system is always in a high side. Remember, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has not gone yet. I'm Okti Damayanti, will be the moderator for this forum, this session for the next 2 hours. Today, Filantropi Learning Forum is very special because it is part of FIFAS 2022. Let me share to all of you what is FIFAS about. Indonesia Philanthropy Festival or FIFAS 2022 is a biannual event that serves a platform for philanthropy stakeholders to address and share mainstream issues, initiatives, innovations, policies, and best practices of philanthropy engagement in Indonesia. Continuing the success of 2 previous FIFAs in 2016 and 2018, This year's event is convened virtually for a month, starts from the 2nd of June until 30th of June 2022. The theme for this year's event is Philanthropy Hub, Strengthening Philanthropy Ecosystem to Accelerate the Achievement of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which aims to elaborate on opportunities, strategies, priorities in developing Indonesian philanthropy ecosystem that will help accelerate the achievement of SDG. The FIFAS 2022 will showcase discussion forum on various topics, new publications, including, this is the very interesting part, the launch of the first Indonesian Philanthropic Outlook 2022. Innovative and initiatives by philanthropy organizations supporting SDG achievement, both at the national and international level. So please, Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, join us in the FIFAS 2022. So, Bapak, Ibu, prior to the dialogue, allow me to invite Pak Rizal Algamar as Chair of the Executive Board Filantropi Indonesia to deliver welcoming speech. Pak Rizal, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Okti. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Philanthropy Festival 2022 with today's session on the transformation of philanthropy landscape, global and Indonesia perspective. First of all, I would like to thank all our great panelists and moderator. We have here Mr. Derek Rahill, the Director of International Strategies from Charities Aid Foundations, Ibu Susanti Sitorus, the Vice Chair of the Executive Board of Filantropi Indonesia, Bapak Arifin Purwakananta, the Deputy of BAZNAS Indonesia, and the Chair of the Supervisory Board of Filantropi Indonesia. And today's session will be moderated by Ibu Okti Damayanti, who is the Chairperson of Yayasan Adaro, and also the member of the Executive Board of Filantropi Indonesia. Also we have in the room is Pak Gusman Yahya, the Executive Director of Filantropi Indonesia. So good evening, morning, afternoon, depending on which part of the world you are. This is the decade of action. We have 10 years by 2030 to transform our world. The active role and contribution of the philanthropy sector is essential, if not critical element in accelerating the Sustainable Development Goals or the SDGs. SDGs is our shared vision to end poverty, save the planet, and build a sustainable future. Progress is being made in many places, but to achieve the goals at the speed and scale, we need transformative and ambitious action grounded in mobilizing collective action. Filantropi Indonesia has a mandate from our members and key stakeholders to continue strengthening the development of Indonesia's philanthropy ecosystem. Filantropi Indonesia, as the hub of philanthropy, it is at the core of our operation. We will be the go-to platform for philanthropists and thought leaders to pursue co-creation, collaborations, and collective action to deliver innovative and sustainable solutions. Today, on behalf of Filantropi Indonesia, we welcome you to the first session of the Indonesia Philanthropy Festival, or FIFAS 2022. We will be discussing the critical enablers that would strengthen and transform the philanthropy ecosystem. The COVID-19 pandemic began as a health crisis and has turned into a socio-economic crisis that, if not mitigated continuously, it is imperiling progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. Achieving the goal is all the more urgent and must do for all of us. A transformation strategy post-COVID should be pursued, and we must collaboratively work together to make the decade of action to be successful. Continuing the success of the two previous FIFAs in 2016 and 2018, this year's event will run virtually for the whole month of June, and the FIFEST committee have curated over 20 sessions with 80 plus leading speakers from 7 countries. So FIFEST is a platform for philanthropists, sustainability practitioners, governments, media, and youth to come together. FIFEST is convened virtually throughout the month of June. The spirit of collaboration and cooperation among all parties is indeed imperative to strengthen the philanthropy ecosystem. So Filantropi Indonesia is proud and happily welcoming you to be part of Philanthropy Festival 2022 and the journey to advance the sustainable development goals. So thank you for being with us and have a wonderful session. Thank you. I'll give the floor back to you.
Thank you, Pak Rizal. Especially in highlighting how we are together, have a build ambition action to achieve the SDGs, right? Especially with all the changes that happen in the world. So let us continue with today's dialogue with the topic of the transformation of philanthropy landscape, global and Indonesia perspective. Bapak dan Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, in the last decades, the philanthropy sector in global world has changed its focus and trend from individual form of giving to community philanthropy and structured institutional giving. It raises various challenges and at the same time opportunities for philanthropy institutions to gain support from international or national communities and donors. Various innovations and adaptation strategies continue to be carried out to ensure program and impact sustainability. It proves that the transformation is the process of changing that never ends. But the question is, with this rapid changing environment happen globally, triggered by digitalization, transparency, sustainability, and accountability, how global and Indonesia philanthropic institutions adapt to not only survive, but also advance philanthropic sector's role to support the achievement of social justice and sustainable development. Today, Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, we are very fortunate to have 3 prominent corporate philanthropists from different backgrounds to be our panelists. They will discuss all the things that have been shared by Pak Rizal and also the highlight of the topic today. So let me introduce, and once again, greetings to all the prominent speakers. Good morning, Bapak Derek Rayhill, the Director of International Strategy Charities Aid Foundation, Ibu Susanti Sitorus, Vice Chair of Board of Executive Philanthropy Indonesia, and Bapak Arifin Purwakanta, Deputy of BAZNAS Republic of Indonesia and Chair of Board of Supervisory Philanthropy Indonesia. Let me share with you the mechanism of the discussion. First, I would like to allow the 3 speakers to share their thinking, their strategies, their experience to all of us. And then after that will be followed by Q&A session, whereby I will invite the participant to raise questions by writing in the chat box or raise your hands emoticon. Then I'll be helped by the committee to choose the participant who can directly ask questions and open mic or even open the camera. So without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker, Bapak Derek Rayhill, Director of International Strategy Charities Aid Foundation. But before that, let me read his short bio. His career began in the White House internship program in Washington, D.C. Since then, he has worked in a variety of nonprofit and government roles on both sides of the Atlantic. His experience includes a new international TV station at BBC Worldwide, setting up one of the first international award scheme for corporate social responsibility at the International Visual Communications Association, and expanding the world's largest festival for cinema and young people. More recently, he spent 7 years as an executive director at London First, running their commercial strategy alongside many leading corporations, and launched Cities Restart, a new international network for business and civic leaders focused on COVID-19 recovery. Derek is also a trustee of Police Care United Kingdom. Wow, what an impressive experience from Pak Derek. So once again, good morning, Pak Derek. I'll give you 20 minutes to share the transformations of philanthropy sector at global landscape. Pak Derek, the time is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Oxy, and thank you, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. And it's always a particular honor to engage in any event in Indonesia, because as I will get to a little bit later when we get up my short presentation, Indonesia is consistently the most generous country in the world, according to our global study of cultures of giving around the world, otherwise known as the World Giving Index, which we do in partnership with the Gallup organization. So anytime you can speak to an Indonesian audience, it is an honor. So thank you all very much. And as you could probably tell from Okti's introduction, I love a festival. So it's also great to be at the opening session of FIFEST. Thank you so much. Please do put any questions in the chat, or however, is it the chat that is the best option, Okti? And I will very happily answer them. If for some reason I need to slow down because of the translation, etc., Okti, please also let me know. But otherwise, before we begin the presentation, let me just explain that the Charities Aid Foundation believes in the power of giving. And we, in the year that has just finished, from our headquarters in the United Kingdom and from our subsidiaries in CAF America and CAF Canada, £958 million was given by a donor to a charity in 100 different countries. And we believe in the power of a gift. And whether that gift is £1 or £1 million, it is our job to help the donor create as much impact and as much effectiveness and as much longevity to that donation as they possibly can. So it's inspiring to be here, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation later. But in our context, one thing I should just be very clear about with all of you is that we are looking to expand our international activities, and we are looking for new partners in Asia and in Southeast Asia. And if we don't get a chance to exchange views today, I will be at the Asian Venture Philanthropy Network event in Bali in a couple of weeks' time. If you are there as well, please do come up to me. But otherwise, my Twitter handle is Derek Rahill, at Derek Rahill on Twitter. So I'm easy to find if you want to reach out to me. I'll ask you, if you don't mind, to get the presentation up, just the opening slide. So, as you can probably tell from my introduction, at the Charities Aid Foundation, we help people give, whether they're individuals, whether they're high net worth individuals, or whether they're corporations. And we see a lot of different activity and a lot of different intent. But I could not agree more with the remarks of our wonderful opening speaker. And I'll just share with you that I've just returned from 3 days at the major European conference for foundations and donations, the Filea conference in Barcelona. And we were addressed by Antonio Vitorino, the Director General of the UN International Organizations for Migration. And he said exactly what was covered in the introduction. There is not enough money from governments to fulfill the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we as private philanthropists, whether as a corporate entity, as an individual, or because we are wealthy enough to have a foundation ourselves or what have you, we can bridge that gap. And, it's inspiring to see the coordination between this sector and the UN. So it's in that context that I give this presentation today. May I please have the next slide? So, more than 10 years ago, we launched the World Giving Index in partnership with the Gallup organization. And the reason why we wanted to do this was it's so easy to fall into the trap of measuring giving based on how much you've given, which necessarily is going to be biased towards richer countries and richer people in those richer countries and richer corporations in those richer countries. And we wanted something that helped to address that significant bias in the way we interpreted national traditions of giving and current dynamics around giving in countries worldwide. So we began with the World Giving Index. It ranks 140 countries in the world according to how charitable they are. And it evaluates based on a global survey of individuals that are asked by the Gallup organization, have you helped a stranger? Have you donated to a charity? Or have you participated in a more structured volunteering program? And those answers are tabulated around the world, and they create the ranking. And the 2021 World Giving Index, and not for the first time, as I said, demonstrated that according to those metrics, Indonesia is the most generous country in the world. So if I may, I'll suggest that we deserve a round of applause for that. Thank you very much. May you please move on to the next slide. So why Indonesia? And I think one of the things that is important to realize is that, you know, the tradition of philanthropy exists in many different ways in many different countries and through many different cultural and religious lenses. The countries that rank highest in the World Giving Index tend to combine a historic tradition of community support and community involvement. And of course, Gotong Royong has existed for generations and generations and fuels so much of what weaves together Indonesian communities and people. And then there typically is also a strong religious element that often is more recent. And of course, the Muslim tradition of zakat combines with that in Indonesia to mean that people are giving, they're volunteering, and they're helping strangers. That is our analysis. If you think it's incorrect, then please do share it with me. This is a discussion, but I just wanted to share with you what we feel is the case. And if you look at other countries around the world, and they may have different community traditions and different religious traditions, the same holds true. So, you know, in Kenya, for instance, there is the tradition from the African tradition of Mbuto on top of the Christian tradition of charity. In Nigeria, it's the same community tradition, but it's a Muslim country. In Thailand, you know, Theravada Buddhism and the traditions of the community are very strong. All of those countries tend to rank relatively high in the World Giving Index. So I think where we have been successful is we have found a way of identifying the culture of giving and the impact of the gift that isn't entirely dominated by Western liberal democratic lenses and capitalist lenses as we identify them, you know, in North America and Western Europe. And it's been a huge guide for us. One of the interesting things to look at is also that, you know, many countries, but particularly Indonesia, has a digital transformation ongoing, you know, has higher and higher penetrations of mobile phone use, etc. And what happens is typically charities, particularly through COVID, have been better at digitizing and using those same channels so that you give in the same way as you buy other products and services. And then there's always the need to involve young people. And typically, you know, in one of the themes at the conference, the European conference I was just at in Barcelona, was very much about youth involvement. And you know, it was interesting because the views of youth are no different from the views of older people, but they seldom get the same voice in an event like that. So that was inspiring. May I have the next slide, please? So just to go into a bit more detail, and if you want to download the World Giving Index, you just need to go to CAF online, and the results of every year are available to download. And you can see how often Indonesia is top of that ranking if you wish. But you'll see that the 10 most generous generous countries changed substantially during COVID, but there is the same trend that we were talking about. So you have Kenya, you have Nigeria, you have Myanmar, you have Thailand, you have Uganda, all in the top 10. You have Ghana, all in the top 10. The only particularly rich countries in the top 10 are Australia and New Zealand. Now, there may be a slight aspect of when the survey was covered, because it was, there have been different phases of COVID, but we believe those results are entirely authentic. And you'll notice that America, Canada, the United Kingdom is not in those top 10. And indeed, France ranks 104. So, it was a sobering set of results for those of us in Europe, and a wake-up call. Please go to the next slide. So this is just looking a little bit more at those three questions. And what you'll notice is that helping a stranger is, one of the categories that does change the results quite significantly. Nigeria, Cameroon, Iraq, Georgia, Zambia are not countries that appear elsewhere in the rankings, but they are particularly places where, for their own traditions, helping strangers is very much what you do normally. In Indonesia is top, as you can see. 83% of people, when this survey was conducted, had donated to a charity. If you look, this is I have to highlight this because I'm based in the United Kingdom. This is the only time the United Kingdom comes in the top 10. We are relatively generous with our money, but apparently less generous with our time and less generous at helping a stranger. Whatever that says about us, I leave for more sophisticated sociologists and psychologists, but I think it is an interesting result. And it's interesting to see that, for instance, in India and Nepal and the Asian subcontinent, actual structured volunteering, which is that third category, is much more prominent than other forms of giving. So it's an imperfect set of criteria, but it's been very consistently revealing for us. And it's been done exactly the same way over the course of each edition of the World Giving Index. So I would encourage anybody to log on to the CAF website or to tweet me or whatever, and have a look at some of the results. There are some fascinating patterns over time. To the next slide, please. So at CAF, we believe in the power of the gift. We are hoping to expand our operations internationally so we can live up to our ambition to help donors give anywhere safely. You cannot always do it quickly, but you can always find a way of giving safely across borders, provided it is to a genuinely charitable organization, and provided you are prepared to go through the due diligence required to meet the standards of anti-money laundering legislation, counterterrorism finance, and what have you. You can give to a charity in Afghanistan. You can give to a charity in Ukraine. You can give to a charity in Mali. And that's what we aim to do. And that's why we find the World Giving Index so useful to us, because it has a completely different lens on cultures of national giving. Next slide, please. Just as an example, the heartbreaking war in Ukraine, followed by the global health catastrophe that has been COVID-19, and in many places still is COVID-19. As we were reminded so ably by our coordinator today, COVID is not over. And then all the natural disasters that are triggered by climate change. What they have done recently, I think, very clearly to all of us, they have brought us together as a global community of givers like never before. And in the United Kingdom, at the Charities Aid Foundation, we support in disasters a consortium of 15 leading charities based in part in the UK called the Disasters Emergency Committee. And immediately after the resumption of war in Ukraine, a staggering 62 million was donated online in 7 days by the British public. And that part of that was matched by the UK government. So, you know, there is hope. There is always hope. And events like this just give me a lot of hope. And I am very much looking forward to continuing the discussion with all of you. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for listening to me now.
Thank you, Pak Derek, for fascinating sharing. I feel so proud that Indonesia in the top list of one of the most generous country in giving. But then, do we really can capitalize our social asset, which is gotong royong and also like zakat, to really helping the country to achieve our SDG goals? Okay, let us move to the second speaker, Ibu Susanti Sitorus, Vice Chair of Board of Executive Filantropi Indonesia. Ibu Susanti is one of the founders of Filantropi Indonesia, so she knows all about Filantropi Indonesia, Vice Chair of Board of Executive Filantropi Indonesia, and also advisor at the Climate Works Foundation for Indonesia program. He will share insightful information on the transformation and opportunities for strengthening the philanthropy sectors at Indonesia context. So, Ibu Susanti, the time is yours.
Thank you, Bhakti. Good morning, afternoon, evening, Ibu dan Bapak, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much to Filantrop Indonesia for inviting me to speak. So I've been asked to talk about the transformation in Indonesia's philanthropy sector. The first question that was asked to me: how has the philanthropy sector developed in Indonesia in the last decade? So, if we are talking, so I'd like to address the first question. So if we are talking about the last decade, that means since the early 2020s, at that time, Indonesia's economy already bounced back after massive economic financial crisis that hit us and also other Asian countries in late 1990s. We have seen growing wealth in the Indonesian society, and also the new and continuing problems, social, environmental problems, and all this together provide a strong basis for further growth of Philanthropy Indonesia. As you heard from Mr. Derek Rahil before, it is in the deeply rooted in Indonesia's culture to be charitable, to be generous, but there are several areas that we have seen transformation changes that makes the sector grows even further. So apart from this growing wealth, we, as Derek also mentioned, we have seen more young people having concern about environment, social issues, and with the increasing wealth that their parents or themselves, so they started to contribute more, and we have seen public donations flourishing in communities across in Indonesia through different forms. So apart from this, I think I'd like to just focus the three areas in terms of the transformation. First, the reform in 1998 changed the political landscape in Indonesia, the governance, and we have to remember that philanthropy cannot really be separated from the political environment where it operates. So with this more open and democratic society, it provides a fertile ground for the growth of philanthropy, especially for the organizations to be operating more freely. So we first is that in terms of institutions, we have seen better institutionalization of philanthropy practices. More and more organizations are moving from informal and unstructured philanthropy to more modern management system. The law on foundations, many or most of the philanthropy organizations in Indonesia use foundation as the legal format. And so with the law on foundations promulgated in 2001, and then with the ensuing regulations have made have allowed the foundations to operate within a robust legal framework. So that's first in terms of institutions, the transformation that has happened. So the second area is in terms of the actors. There's more variety of philanthropy actors. The number of state and non-state agencies to manage zakat has increased exponentially. Pak Arifin can talk more about that later. And then we have media philanthropies. It is something that unique to Indonesia. I have not seen this developing in other countries. So in Indonesia, Derek, the media organizations, they not only help mobilize public donations when the major natural disaster strike, but they also then manage those fundings, create a special foundation to manage and then distribute it. So we call it in our term as media philanthropy. And that has also grown. And corporate and family foundations are increasingly being established as the philanthropic arm of family business groups. Some of them have already separated between the business CSR and the family foundations. And then we have seen collaboration across these actors. Because the challenges, social or environmental challenges, becoming more complex, and there's a growing awareness that they should be tackled collaboratively. And the other actor, of course, Derek already mentioned, the younger generation. They become now like prominent leaders in philanthropy. They introduce innovative ways of doing philanthropy, combining passion, concern about the societal issues, and also combine social entrepreneurship. That's, I think, something worth to note in this discussion. And the third area is the focus area and geography, and we have seen more variety in terms of which area they want to focus on, or geography they want to focus on. So traditionally and still now many philanthropy organizations have focused on education and health, but more and more they choose special niche areas. So we have seen now organizations that focus on to help children that were born with labioplatositis, the cleft lip, and then organizations that specifically try to help former inmates to get to be introduced to the society, empowering them with new skills so that they can get a job after they finish their sentence. And then there's also organizations that focus on helping widows, to help them on economic term. And then So there's also philanthropy organizations that support farmers, traditional weavers, but to make them more business-like, so that they can set up a social enterprise to help their business. So of course there are more other interesting developments, but I just would like to cluster this in these three areas. Interesting and significant transformation in our landscape. The individual philanthropy, of course, still continues. It's not very difficult to see in our daily lives. People give money and time. As Derek said, Indonesian very generous when it comes to time, and time also means giving help on something, not just time, but also on work, on their workforce. So that still continues, although they tend to be ad hoc, unstructured, and based on more faith or personal preferences, rather than very objective assessments of societal needs. So just last point is that I think we are in the last 5 years we have spread this mantra in Indonesia. I think we are very aligned, CAF and Filantropi Indonesia, that our mantra is that you don't have to wait until you become old and rich to become a philanthropist. Yeah. So, and I am very happy with the methodology of CAF that really, highlight that the philanthropy is not just about, how much, the amount of money, but it's about your sincerity in giving whatever you have, money, time, energy, thoughts, So, just would like to address the first question, Ibu Okti. But happy to answer the question if you have. Thanks.
Okay, wow. Ibu Santi, you just shared all the history and the transformations of philanthropy in Indonesia. Well, actually, there is something that I would like to ask to you on how do a global condition affect the development and the strengthening of the philanthropy ecosystem in Indonesia. Because just now, Derek has shared a little bit of information about how the global face a lot of changes. Then how this affect us here, Bu Santi?
Okay, global situation, if what is really facing us now is, of course, the pandemic. We are not over it now until now, and it's still just like in other countries. The COVID-19 pandemic brings unprecedented challenges, to Indonesia and to the philanthropy sector to carry out their mission. It's just to give an illustration, so in 2020, the first year of the global pandemic, our official statistics report that there's an increase in national poverty rate from until more than 10%, which translates into a rise in the number of poor people, more than 27 million. So that's becoming a new challenge for us, because these people who become poorer, will probably stay in that stage until the next few years, and so organizations who already have special mandates will have to somehow adjust, to the new challenges brought by the pandemic. But of course, also, the pandemic offers us a new opportunity. It accelerates digital transformation. Many of us were reluctant, to combine digital technology in our work, but hey, we couldn't do anything if we didn't do it during the pandemic. So that's that opened the door for innovation, a lot of innovation in our sector. And also, I think one which is something that particular to Indonesia is that, in the first year of the pandemic, there are many people link the natural disaster management preparedness with the COVID response capacity. Yeah, so then we realize we are not prepared to deal with this. Like what, like also we are always not very prepared when natural disaster happen, although we always have natural disasters every year. So that's, something, a big lesson for us, that we really need to spend attention to prepare ourselves for either, another, God forbid, crisis, global crisis, or natural disaster. But we have, it's just that how it was crippling, COVID-19 pandemic. It was really crippling. We couldn't do anything about it, although we at the time we had a lot of money, but so that's kind of awareness. I think would in the coming years, hopefully it will shape how we strategize our work, our mission, so that we can be more strategic. So I think if I focus on the global pandemic situation and then the influence on our sector, that's probably my takeaways. Thanks.
Thank you, Mbak Santi. Very interesting and also very insightful. But then let me allow to invite the third speaker, Bapak Arifin Purwakananta, is Deputy of BAZNAS Republic of Indonesia and Chair of Board of Supervisory Filantropi Indonesia. Pak Arifin has been working in philanthropy sector for more than 20 years. He managed leading philanthropy religious-based organizations like Dompet Duafa and BAZNAS, and he is also active in national and international forum, namely Humanitarian Forum Indonesia and World Zakat Forum. Pak Arifin will share challenges, best practices, and innovation in adapting the transformation. This will be very interesting because Pak Arifin himself has successfully bringing his organization to implement innovation. So, Pak Arifin, looking forward to your story, Pak Arifin. The time is yours.
Okay. Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and good morning to all participants. Thank you, Ibu Okti as moderator, and also my friend, Mr. Rizal Algamar, and Mr. Gusman Yahya, Chairman and CEO of Filantropi Indonesia, and especially Mr. Derek Ray. Thank you from Charity Aid Foundation, and also Ibu Susanti Storus, my friend from Filantropi Indonesia. Thank you for this opportunity. Allow me in this short time to provide a little insight to on the topic raised in the Philanthropy Learning Forum this time. Currently, I am a deputy of BAZNAS and chair of the Supervisory Indonesian Philanthropy Board. Will provide a brief description on Indonesian philanthropy, its opportunity and challenges in relation to supporting the SDGs and so on. Okay, as previously stated by Mr. Derek, thank you, Mr. Derek. As reported by World Giving Index, Indonesia is recorded as the country with the most generous population in the world. The same in report in 2020, Indonesia also recorded as still in the top 10 most dangerous countries in the past 10 years. What interesting is that the World Giving Index notes that the role of religious philanthropy, especially zakat, has contributed to encouraging generous generosity in Indonesia. The figure presented in the World Giving Index confirm the data by BAZNAS and Indonesian philanthropy regarding the magnitude of Indonesian philanthropy practice. In the zakat philanthropy sector, BAZNAS recorded an increase in Indonesian national zakat collection by 24% per year. Philanthropy Indonesia research note that the zakat philanthropy is about 81% of the national philanthropy portion, especially from the individual donor and corporate donor. In corporate philanthropy and family philanthropy and more, the situation is greatly influenced by spirit of gotong royong, which is honored by all levels of society in Indonesia. Indonesia philanthropy has developed very well during the COVID-19 pandemic. The public and the business world have given support to government to overcome COVID-19, so that Indonesia is listed as first best countries in handling COVID-19. I don't know. This is in addition to be supported by generosity of the community. Indonesia already has laws related to philanthropy, namely Undang-Undang Pengumpulan Uang dan Barang is a law for the collection of money and goods, and the CSR law and the zakat law and wakaf law. The role of government and business world is very strong in encouraging Indonesian philanthropy. In addition to individual donor, Philanthropy Indonesia note that corporate donor increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. This show the company high concern to problem that occur in society. What's interesting in the deaths during the pandemic, the company donation were not only delivered to philanthropic institutions, but also carried out by the company themselves. Indonesian philanthropy institutions have many programs. The top five programs are education, empowerment, disaster and environment, advocacy, and health, followed by other programs. The high number of poverty is a challenge as well as a hope for Indonesian philanthropy to develop. Education problems, health, and economic issues are the main area that must be taken by Indonesian philanthropic institutions. Environmental and social problems are also areas that can continue to be developed. Even philanthropy has also started working to realm of advocacy, such as preventing corruption and democracy effort. The progress of Indonesian philanthropy is also marked by the use of digital for donation or for operation or for program to help a community. The use of digital is believed to be the cause of the increase in the number of donation to a number of philanthropic institutions that raise funds using digital in pandemic COVID-19. Of all this development, Indonesian believes that the role of philanthropy is a great force to contribute to the improvement of this country. What are current challenges and opportunity? The challenge of Indonesian philanthropy, I think, is to increase the impact of philanthropy to address these problems. Sometimes philanthropy organizations report on donation raising activities and program activities, but they are not very strong to conveying the impact of philanthropy activities. Increasing the impact of philanthropy must be Indonesian focus going forward. We strive for all innovation in the field of philanthropy to increase the impact of philanthropy. Indonesian philanthropic development effort can be encouraged to achieve the SDGs. We know that one of failure of MDGs in Millennium Development Goals is in financing of activities. I have 3 ideas. First, philanthropy can be encouraged to find innovative financing to various SDGs program. The BAZNAS maybe program to make micro hydroelectrical generator in Sumatra from zakat funds can be simple example to philanthropy program for the implementation to SDGs. Second, encourage philanthropy institution, both individuals, institutions, and companies, to willing to harmonize and register their program so far the context of the SDGs. Currently, many philanthropic institutions have listed their program at the SDG Secretariat Indonesia, and more philanthropic organizations are needed to do so. Third, mainstreaming the SDGs in Indonesian philanthropic movement. Many goals in SDGs must be common goals for the philanthropic movement without losing its specificity and strength of each philanthropy institution. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Pak Arifin. Very insightful information, that the growth of amount of the giving of Indonesia through zakat increased by 24%. So regardless what happened to us, we are really a very generous people. So Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, we are right now go into the Q&A session, where I already saw some questions through chat box. So let me read to the panelists so you can also respond to the question. This questions coming from Bapak Rifki Cendikia. He asked to Bapak Derek. So Derek, this is a question for you. Why don't G8 countries include in the top 10 most generous country? Is it because the more developed country making less attention, less care to give to others? So that's the question from Pak Rifki. Derek?
Thank you so much, and thank you for the question. It's an excellent question. Certainly if you scan the top 10 countries in the World Giving Index, you realize that there's only 2 relatively small economies that are rich that are in there, Australia and New Zealand. And we have looked at this in some detail. I don't think we have any easy answers. What I think is true is where it's very different, it's pretty obvious that the country is not as ungenerous as it looks on the World Giving Index. So I was invited on French television to explain why they were 107th out of 112 countries. And essentially, the truth is that in France, the population vote for a government that puts high taxes in place to fund a very big social welfare system that's quite expensive. So you would say there's a form of generosity that's not captured by the World Giving Index. But with that caveat, I would say it's very hard to know, but I think that there is a complacency in many G8 countries on the part of the public that someone else is going to fix the problem. And what is absolutely true of places like Indonesia, if I understand it correctly, is you don't wait for other people to fix your community problems. You, the community, try to fix your own problems. And if you're not successful, you may eventually have to find external help. But it is that collective responsibility, that sense of immediate collective responsibility. And that maps across most of the most generous countries. Whether you're living in Thailand or Indonesia or Kenya, you're in one of the most generous countries according to the World Giving Index. And I think it's because you as communities fix your own problem. In the West, sometimes we think it's because we have the wrong government in power, or because we have other issues to fix that aren't this, or because, you know, the UN will come in and fix the SDGs and et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that creates a sense of distance in terms of responsibility that I would say, particularly with the traditions in Indonesia, just is not the case. And I think that's the best answer I can give. It's not that those G8 countries aren't able to give more, and people in those countries aren't able to give more. I think to a certain extent they do it a little bit differently, but the truth is it's this sense of collective responsibility. I can fix this problem with my community, rather than I'm going to vote for the government that will fix my problem for me.
Thank you, Pak Dery, for the response. I know that there is a question that attended to Ibu Santi, and Ibu Santi already answered the question, but probably Ibu Santi can also elaborate more. A question that how should the philanthropic community in Indonesia collaborate to ensure maximum impact on ensuring equitable access to economic opportunities and better human development outcomes for all Indonesians? Wow, a very good question. Ibu Santi, would you please elaborate further on these very good questions?
Thank you. So I gather that the key question is how the philanthropic communities collaborate. I think, as I said, there's a growing awareness that the complex challenges can only be addressed if we work together, if we collaborate. And we have seen many collaborations among different actors, which is a good sign and a good development. But not everyone is having a good collaboration. So I sense that the question is that how to collaborate better, right? And we often heard that in Indonesia, coordination is a very expensive commodity. And that's often true, in the context of philanthropy as well. Although we are different from the government, we collaborate more easily, but sometimes it's not very effective because a number of reasons. And from my experience is that sometimes because not everyone, have the same pace, and so when you have more participation, then you have to compromise the speed, which should not be the case actually. As you have more resources, more joint contribution, then you should have more to do more, right? And but often what happens is that the speed is compromised, and that's I think we have to look at how the platform of collaboration is set up, whether the rules of game, kind of rules of game is set right, and everyone has kind of like made commitment that yes, we are part of this platform, that we are committed to do this, and so I think that's often not neglected. It's kind of like taking for granted. Oh yeah, we're all nice people, working in philanthropy. When we collaborate, we all will be nice to each other. So sometimes it's not about being nice or not. It's sometimes, people coming into the platform, the collaboration, with the right speed and right attitude or not. So that's probably just based on my experience, because I think the key words from the question is how to make the collaboration more effective. Thanks.
Thank you. I love your phrase, Ibu Santi, that collaboration is and coordination is an expensive commodity here in Indonesia, and I totally agree with you. Another question, I'll give it to Pak Arifin. Pak Arifin, the question is, what are the priority aspects needed to accelerate philanthropy institution facing the transformation?
Okay, let me answer in Indonesian, in bahasa. Thank you for committee to provide interpretation in this meeting. Saya kira kalau kita ingin membahas prioritas ya untuk bagaimana sebuah lembaga filantropi bisa bertransformasi, kita bisa melihat dari dua sisi. Pertama dari internal, saya kira aspek penting yang perlu kita bangun adalah SDM. Jadi kemajuan filantropi tentu saja harus diiringi dengan sumber daya manusia dalam bidang filantropi, dan boleh saya katakan bahwa mereka-mereka yang bergerak di bidang filantropi di Indonesia masihlah orang-orang yang tersisa dari bidang-bidang lainnya seperti bisnis, politik, pendidikan dan sebagainya. Walaupun sudah semakin banyak SDM-SDM yang baik masuk dalam gerakan filantropi di Indonesia, tapi kita membutuhkan lebih banyak lagi manusia-manusia yang kuat, yang baik, yang cakap untuk bisa mengisi ruang-ruang kerja filantropi di lembaga-lembaga filantropi. Yang kedua, di aspek internal, saya kira kita perlu mengembangkan teknologi. Jadi bukan saja membuat digitasi, tetapi kita sampai kepada gagasan mentransformasi lembaga ini secara digital. Jadi transformasi digital tidaklah diartikan sebagai hanya penggunaan teknologi untuk bekerja dalam ruang gerak lembaga-lembaga filantropi, tetapi menggunakan seluruh kekuatan digital untuk bisa menguatkan seluruh bidang dalam lembaga filantropi, baik dalam penggalangan dana, dalam program kerja, dalam koordinasi dan sebagainya. Saya kira untuk internal dua tantangan besar itu ya. Tantangan eksternal kita adalah dukungan masyarakat dan dukungan pemerintah untuk menguatkan bidang filantropi. Misalnya saja kita masih menunggu dukungan pajak, ya, dukungan insentif pajak untuk bisa lebih meningkatkan gerakan filantropi di Indonesia. Kita sering mendengar di dunia yang lebih maju, seluruh kegiatan filantropi itu dapat dibebaskan dari pajak, bahkan juga mendapatkan insentif pajak. Saya kira Indonesia perlu mencontoh dan meningkatkan insentif pajak itu kepada gerakan filantropi. Saya kira itu yang bisa saya sampaikan, dukungan aspek internal dan eksternal untuk pendorong percepatan transformasi lembaga-lembaga filantropi.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Arifin for the response. I also would like to invite Ibu Santi to add more. Is there any aspect that also the priority to really drive the transformations of philanthropy institution here in Indonesia?
Yes, I agree with the point on human capital. We don't have special academy or academic institutions to help prepare the workforce for philanthropy. Yeah. That's a big homework for all of us. And I think also from our side we have to think about how to make the sector more attractive for the younger generation. Because a lot of them, I remember, when I joined the nonprofit, well, that was 3 decades ago, and one of my relatives said, "Are you sure there's no career prospect in NCSO? What are you looking for?" And I believe that kind of impression is still held by many parents, and so they were always worried when they hear that their children will work for CSO A, B, or Foundation A, B. So I think we also need to tackle on that, to give the right understanding about our sector and our contribution to the society. So that's on the human capital. And the other thing that I wrote in the chat is the regulation. Yeah, there are still many regulations that are limiting the philanthropy sector. So one piece of regulation that has been deliberated in the parliament for now many years. It's been delayed because of the pandemic, but it is very outdated regulation on penggalangan uang dan barang. So that's basically resource mobilization. We really need to make sure that the new law will allow the sector to be adaptive, so because the way the government formulate the draft, the bill is like, technology will be static, the technology will always change, and so we have to make sure that that law will not be limiting our sector, and also other think in terms of democratization. We have to make sure that it's in good shape. Because, as I said in the beginning of my intervention, one of the contributing factors to the growth of philanthropy after the reform is we have a more open and democratic society. So, that's the 2 points that I'd like to add.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Santi. I just want to build on what Ibu Santi and also Pak Arifin has said about the human capital aspect, how we need the good quality of talents in driving philanthropy sectors. But I would like to ask the view of Bapak Derek here. Pak Derek, is there any formal institution to really develop the quality of talent to become a professional philanthropist? I don't know how we quote this, but in Indonesia, we don't have such things. So we do the philanthropy based on personal calling, and then through experience. That's what we are doing here. Is there any formal education there, Pak Derek?
It does exist, but not through a centrally accredited body that focuses just on philanthropy. It's much more interwoven into various university studies. So if you go to university, you'll have the opportunity, for instance, to learn about international development issues. You can take modules, etc., as part of various different degrees. And similarly, you can learn some of the tools around social impact measurement or what have you that are essential to kickstarting your career. But we don't have a sort of central, this person is a qualified charity professional kite mark that people go for in quite that way. There are versions of that, though. There are versions of that, but no. And I think the point, if I understand correctly, forgive me because I don't speak Indonesian, but I suppose given what I do, I should probably learn. But I think the point about human capital exists the world over, and I think the other point is that what's always true of people who choose to work in this sector is they're only partially motivated by paying their own bills. So it's very difficult to get that balance right. At the Charities Aid Foundation, we are technically the second largest charity in the United Kingdom, but because we help other people give to charities, for our staff, we have to try to keep them motivated without that sort of front line. We helped a child in this country, or we helped a displaced person in that country, or we helped solve this climate issue. That's always the job of the charities we help other people give to. So we experience that as well. And I don't think there's a perfect solution. Much like what we've been talking about, you just need to be aware that, if I understand this correctly, and forgive me if it's wrong or presumptuous, if there's a bit of a talent gap, it can be solved in the same way you can solve any other sectoral issue like that. You need to make sure that the universities and colleges in country are teaching skills that will map across and carry importance for people who want to do a third sector career, or career in the third sector.
Right. Thank you, Pak Derek. Okay, let's move to other questions here. I saw you from Ibu Heti Nur Cahyarini. I heard in the latest news that a politician said that we have to be careful with the title generous country, because sometimes the donation goes wrong and funds from some terrorist organization. We receive the fund, distribute them, and move them. Learn from what happened in Indonesia and other countries. Could you explain how to tackle this issue? Do you think it is just about the regulations in Indonesia, or is there any another factors? So probably I give it first to Pak Arifin to respond to this question. Pak Arifin.
Oke, terima kasih Ibu Okti. Saya kira kekhawatiran mengenai penyalahgunaan dana filantropi itu menjadi permasalahan dari semua bangsa. Jadi apa yang dilakukan oleh Indonesia adalah dengan memperkuat koordinasi dari lembaga-lembaga filantropi tersebut. Kami di Gerakan Zakat misalnya selalu terkoordinasi dengan pihak-pihak keamanan, kepolisian, juga bahkan intelijen, juga PPATK, untuk terus menjadi teman bagi lembaga-lembaga filantropi yang khususnya berbasis zakat, agar tidak ada penyelewengan dana zakat, khususnya oleh lembaga-lembaga yang sudah terdaftar di pemerintah. Itu diperkecil kemungkinannya untuk terjadi kesalahan dalam penyaluran dana zakat untuk hal-hal yang tidak kita inginkan, terutama kepada radikalisme, terorisme, dan kegiatan-kegiatan yang merusak lainnya. Tetapi kita memiliki problem yang besar untuk lembaga-lembaga yang tidak terdaftar. Jadi di Indonesia banyak sekali lembaga-lembaga filantropi yang belum terdaftar. Maka tugas pemerintah termasuk BAZNAS adalah mencoba memberi dorongan kepada lembaga-lembaga informal untuk mendaftar dan dicatatkan dan melaporkan kepada pemerintah seluruh aktivitasnya. Dengan demikian maka kita bisa melakukan pencegahan. Juga termasuk dalam mendorong penggunaan perbankan dalam fundraising maupun dalam distribution untuk menghindari penggunaan cash yang sulit untuk dilacak dan sulit untuk ditelusuri penggunaannya. Kami juga mengupayakan selalu membuat semacam kelas atau seminar-seminar kepada lembaga zakat untuk tidak menggunakan zakat ada 3 aturan yang kita buat di zakat. Pertama adalah aman regulasi. Jadi secara regulasi tidak menabrak undang-undang dan peraturan yang ada di Indonesia. Yang kedua tentu saja karena ini zakat, aman syariah, tidak menabrak aturan syariah zakat. Yang ketiga, dia harus aman NKRI. Yaitu zakat ini harusnya dapat didorong untuk mengembangkan negara kita, bukan menghancurkan. Jadi kita mewanti-wanti membuat pelatihan dan seminar untuk menjelaskan kepada lembaga-lembaga untuk mewujudkan 3 aman tadi. Kami juga memiliki program yang terus-menerus didorong oleh BAZNAS untuk membuat apa yang kita beri nama saya lupa katanya, untuk membuat kampanye fundraising itu tidak cenderung kepada radikalisme. Jadi kita mendorong kampanye-kampanye fundraising itu tidak ke 2 ekstrim. Pertama, tidak menjual kemiskinan, artinya membuat berita-berita seolah-olah negara kita ini rusak terus, banyak orang susah semua, dan sebagainya. Tetapi kami mendorong untuk menyampaikan harapan. Kalau kita ingin membantu orang susah, kita tidak menampilkan susahnya mereka, tetapi menampilkan program yang membuat orang-orang yang susah menjadi tidak susah. Sebagaimana anak sekolah, diceritakan bagaimana kalau dia sudah bersekolah. Anak sakit tidak ditampakkan orang sedang sakit, hidrosefalus dan sebagainya, tetapi disampaikan bahwa dia sudah sembuh kalau ada program kesehatan. Itu ekstrim yang pertama, kita menghindari menjual kemiskinan. Yang kedua, kita juga menghindari mempertentangkan kebenaran atau fundraising yang mendorong kampanye-kampanye yang keras, yang membuat kampanye itu bisa menghasilkan kekisruhan di masyarakat. Kita menghindari 2 model kampanye tersebut. Kita dorong gagasan inclusive fundraising. Inclusive fundraising adalah sebuah penyampaian mendorong membantu sesama tanpa harus mengecilkan yang lain, mendorong membantu sesama tanpa harus menyalahkan orang-orang lain. Itu yang kami coba kembangkan. Mudah-mudahan ini bisa sedikit mengurangi ekses dari penggunaan donasi yang tidak tepat dan juga praktek-praktek fundraising yang juga sering menimbulkan masalah manakala ini kita tidak kembangkan. Terima kasih, Bu Opti.
Terima kasih, Pak Arifin. I have questions here for Pak Derek and also Ibu Santi. The question in bahasa, but let me translate it. Can the growth of philanthropy sector and its transformation be the momentum to embrace philanthropy inclusive? If yes, what are the key enablers in national scale and global scale? Could probably Pak Derek a little bit elaborate on the global perspective and Ibu Santi on the national perspective.
Well, thank you very much. That's an excellent question, and I hope I understand it correctly. If my answer's a little bit off the mark, just let me know and I can clarify. But I think the main thing is, probably 2 things that I think are true universally. Just that governments are very consistent and have very consistent standards worldwide about what it means to be a charitable organization and what it means to be giving a charitable gift. If we had greater consistency globally about that, then it would unlock a lot of foreign donations to charities abroad and between countries. And the truth is that I don't think governments would lose money doing with that legislation. Most governments are very concerned that if they have tax incentives for charitable gifts overseas, they'll lose money. But I think that really encourages philanthropy. And, it's one of those areas where actually American legislation is some of the most progressive. Through the IRS standards of equivalency determination and expenditure responsibility, a charity in Indonesia can become recognized as if it was a charity in the United States. And I would encourage anyone to look at that, because although you would not say that America has the reputation of being particularly international in its outlook, a very small proportion of the population have a passport, for instance, etc. When it comes to foreign donations, they have absolutely led the field of cross-border grant making, and their legislation is clear-cut and you know how to follow it. It's not easy. It's an arduous process in some cases, but it gives the donor in the United States charitable equivalency for tax purposes. And I would say that what's really true is that in most other places in the world that don't have that, what is a charitable donation takes place after tax. And so I just think clearing that up and having a sort of WTO standard for charitable donations around cross-border grant making would be extremely helpful. The second thing is, I think everybody should work harder at recognizing the value of volunteering and volunteerism. And no one does it perfectly. The best examples are corporations where an employer will do a financial donation based on a certain amount of hours volunteered. But the truth is, no one has really cracked the monetary value of volunteering. And it would be great, and maybe it's a little bit more innovative than the governments are prepared to be right now, but to find a sort of some kind of tax equivalent for time donated for the work of charities as well. I hope that's sort of on the mark, but if it's not, just let me know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, some of it really answer the questions. Could probably Mbak Santi to add more on the national perspective?
Okay, thank you. So if I understand correctly, the question is, what are the key enablers to make sure the philanthropy more inclusive? So if I'd like just to touch three things as my response is first, I think the SDGs brought something that has been that was talked about, but not really, just by certain communities. Yeah. So you've heard about this tagline, and no one left behind. Mm-hmm. So and then people started to think about what does it mean, no one left behind, because marginalized communities, marginalized because we think that they are pariah in the society, or they are not untouchable community, something like that. So people avoid to deal with them. But with that, no one left behind. That really triggered people to think really more carefully about whether our work leave some people behind. Yeah, and also this also triggered the thinking in the zakat community. Pak Arifin could talk more about this. Whether the zakat money can be used to help non-Muslim communities. And so the zakat community, after I think more than 1 year deliberation, so they issued this fiqh for zakat on SDGs, which is, I think that's a very noble initiative to make sure that the Amil Zakat, the managers of the zakat, have some confidence, because there's already a fiqh, there's a religious reference that it is okay to use the zakat money for A, B, C that are aligned with SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So I think that's very important enabler to make sure that philanthropy resources can be used to help everyone in need. And so the second thing is digital technology. Yes, on one side, the massive use of the digital technology can create digital divide. But if we do it properly, thinking about the needs and also allowing some time for the people to adopt it, then it can be a powerful tool for an inclusive economy. Yeah. So now we have seen small, medium, micro enterprises can have access to lending thanks to the fintech. Yeah. So I think that's also can be an important enabler. And the last one, this is very important, the social harmony. Social harmony, including, because of there is not there's no conflict because of this religious, like what Pak Arifin mentioned before, so it's not conflict of truth. Yeah, people do not dwell in the right. So people become so very righteous. Yeah, and they think the other less has less value than them. So I think the social harmony can be very strong key enabler, because then you can have your resources, philanthropy resources, distributed to any group, irrespective of their religion, their ethnic background, or other beliefs. So yeah, so there's three things as key enablers to make sure that philanthropy can be more inclusive.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Santi, for the response and elaborations on the particular questions. There's also here need probably elaborations and also clarifications, especially it is taking from Pak Arifin's presentation. Looking at the table provided, the slide provided by Pak Arifin, the Indonesian philanthropy program and the most attractive sectors for philanthropy are still on education and economic empowerment. While, for example, for disability and poverty or elderly are still very low. I am from UCP Roda untuk Kemanusiaan Indonesia, working on providing adaptive wheelchair service in Indonesia. Then understand why it is very difficult for organizations like ours to gain support. I agree completely that we really need to increase and focus on the impact, because if we help more in education and economic empowerment and also health sector, hopefully the other sectors such as poverty, disability will not be as low as shown at the table. That's question from Bapak Damai Janti Teguh. Pak Arifin could probably give some feedback on this.
Terima kasih, Bu Okta. Mungkin Ibu ya, Damayanti ya.
Oh, Damayanti.
Saya mencoba menampilkan grafik yang tadi menjelaskan mengenai mengapa program-program disabilitas itu adanya di paling kanan 18 atau 19. Saya kira jumlah donasi yang dihimpun oleh Lembaga Filantropi Indonesia memang lebih banyak mengedepankan program-program pendidikan, pemberdayaan ekonomi, kebencanaan dan lingkungan hidup, bantuan advokasi, kesehatan dan sebagainya, dibanding dengan program-program untuk membantu disabilitas atau mensupport kehidupan rekan-rekan dari disabilitas. Bukan berarti masyarakat Indonesia tidak suka menyumbang kepada program disabilitas. Saya melihatnya hanya karena lembaga-lembaga yang sudah pandai melakukan fundraising, mereka menyampaikan program-program mereka dalam bentuk pendidikan, ekonomi, bencana, dan sebagainya. Sedangkan lembaga-lembaga yang bergerak di bidang dukungan atau bantuan kepada disabilitas itu belum terlalu banyak atau belum memiliki kemampuan teknik fundraising yang memadai. Saya kira kita bisa menjembatani masalah ini dengan kerjasama antara lembaga-lembaga yang berbasis bantuan disabilitas dengan lembaga-lembaga filantropi yang memiliki program serupa, program-program sosial, misalnya bantuan kesehatan dan bantuan sosial lainnya. Yang kedua, saya mengusulkan agar gerakan bantuan disabilitas di Indonesia juga memiliki koordinasi antar lembaga-lembaga sejenis untuk bisa lebih memainstream, menguatkan kampanye bantuan kepada disabilitas. Memang terus terang di Indonesia belum semua orang dan belum semua pihak itu peduli kepada disabilitas. Kita melihat misalnya dalam pembuatan bangunan, dalam pembuatan support kepada teman-teman dari blind, kita masih kalah dengan negara-negara lain. Jika kita bisa memperbaiki ini, saya yakin bantuan bantuan kita kepada lembaga disabel itu bisa meningkat. Demikian.
Thank you, Pak Arifin. Thank you very much for the very insightful response. Bapak, Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, with the time that we have, I would like to invite Pak Derek, Ibu Santi, and also Pak Arifin to give a closing statement or probably some recommendations on the issues that we are talking since 6:30 just now, and then we can all the participants can also get the key message from each of you. So I would like to invite Pak Derek first.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Oxy. It's just been an absolute honor to be here and to participate in this discussion, and I hope to see many of you in person soon. What I take from today's discussion is that a lot of trends that exist in Indonesia exist around the world, and that there are some straightforward things we can do as a global community to make it easier for people to give, to make it easier for people to have a successful career in philanthropy and charitable work, and for us to come together to be more proactive and prepared for the next disaster or global crises that confronts us. And I absolutely agree that the UN SDGs are the guide. They are the universal language of need in the world, and we should absolutely embrace them and try to use them to define our own small contribution to their success. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Derek. Ibu Santi?
As we heard from the presentation today, so philanthropy has been a strong element in Indonesian society way before this nation existed. It is deeply rooted in our cultural values, and with many advancement in the society, the sector has grown, but we still have a lot, and the contribution of the philanthropy to the society actually and always big. But there are still a lot of works that need to be done to make sure that the philanthropy is really regarded as a pillar, important pillar in the country in terms of regulation and also the ecosystem. So Filantropi Indonesia is now having a focus on improving the ecosystem for philanthropy, which means that we need to look at the landscape of our environment, or operation, and we understand that there are still a lot of gaps. And and this can be addressed with a collaboration, because it cannot be just us, the association. We are the only association of philanthropy in Indonesia, but we need to also work with the research organizations, the private sector and other actors, and of course combining also domestic and international forces, and that's something that we will continue to do. And I on behalf of Filantropi Indonesia, I'm really grateful for the participation of Derek right here from CAF. We really looking forward to furthering our collaboration, because CAF will be very important for us in our work to improve the philanthropy ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Santi. Now I would like to invite Pak Arifin for the closing statement.
Yeah, I hope that philanthropy in Indonesia will transform and develop into a real force that program and their impact can provide, for example, for supporting the SDGs. And for that, all section of society, for all religion, all power, individual, business, or government, continue to support philanthropy. Thank you to all supporters of the philanthropic movement. I hope that more and more leaders will be born from those who have concern. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Pak Arifin. So I should say that the discussion is even more than talking about only transformation. There are lots of aspects that we are discussed here, and the variety of the questions from A to Z, from human capital to regulations to so many things that we have discussed. So I don't want to give more highlight, because all the keywords have already explained by our three prominent speakers here. So with that, let me thank to all speakers, Pak Derek, Ibu Santi, Pak Arifin. Thank you very much for insightful sharing, and also to the audience for active participations, for raising lots of questions, good quality of questions. Hoping this session gave us a better awareness, understanding. Transformation is a never-ending process, and we need more philanthropic leaders for a better world. So, mohon maaf lahir dan batin jika ada salah kata dari saya. Saya tutup forum dialog ini. Thank you very much, and see you soon in the next Philanthropy Learning Forum. Stay healthy and stay happy. Thank you very much, all the participants. For the panelists, please stay on camera, because we have a photo session here. So kindly wait for a little bit of time. Okay, Dinda, I'll give it to you for the photo session.
Okay, thank you, Bu Okti. To all speakers and moderator, please, we will take the photo 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Once again, 1, 2, 3. Last time.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Pak Arifin, Ibu Santi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Terima kasih, Mbak Dinda.
Ya, thank you.
Makasih, Dinda.
Makasih, Bu. Makasih, Pak Arifin.
Pamit ya.
Makasih, Bu Okti.
Makasih, Pak Gusman.
Makasih, teman-teman
Pak Rizal. Selamat istirahat, Bapak-bapak dan Ibu.
Bu, terima kasih.
Izin live.